podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is the Angry Chicken.
Welcome everybody to the Angry Chicken, a podcast about Hearthstone. You heard it from the voice of the man, the myth, the legend. But now you're hearing it from my voice. I'm Willie Dills. Jocelyn Moffat's here, but we've got no Garrett. But we do have, as a stand-in, the possessed villager, Garrett's doppelganger.
That just is Garrett,
yes.
Isn't it, Dills? Like,
oh, it's clear.
Clearly, Garrett.
It's clear, yeah. Like, have we actually had a chance to get Garrett to do like that little pose with the crazy hand thing?
Oh my god, if we could actually get a picture of Garrett doing the possessed villager pose, I think that would be it. That my life would be complete.
Yeah, we got to make it happen. We got BlizzCon coming up. So we have a lot to talk about, actually, because the nerfs are live. This is now, we're living in a post Q block era, maybe. Yeah. At least so far.
Yeah, it seems like for the first couple of days anyways, Q blocks and even the traditional control locks aren't really anywhere to be found. So
yeah, there's some new stuff popping up, which is cool, which is what we wanted. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. We just wanted new, fun, different decks. And so far,
people are already complaining.
Sure. Well, okay. But I mean, look, we'll talk about it more when we get to the strategy section, but we've got Quest Priest is a thing. People are playing Archbishop Benedictus like that.
Yep.
This is exactly the kind of thing that you do want when the nerfs go live. And I know a lot of people had tweeted at me saying they didn't think the nerfs went far enough in some cases. I haven't played a ton, but so far at least they've done the basic point, the basic gist of them, which is knock down the play rates of these decks, right? So you're not seeing even Paladin, period, and you're not seeing a ton of Q block, period. I guess it worked, right? So, but yeah, there's many decks popping up, and I think we'll start to see. This is like the funnest part of the expansion for me. Is like that first part obviously is great, but I love after they make these nerfs halfway through a season. And then you kind of retool and start searching into things that maybe you thought about, but they didn't quite work. And then now you can revisit them. And you've gotten more of an idea of how those decks might be built, but now they might actually be viable. So
yeah,
I'm excited for the next few months.
Like right now, everyone seems like they're kind of experimenting with a whole bunch of ideas that we thought might be good kind of at the beginning of the expansion, but that were just so oppressed by Q block. Yep. And then like all of the strategies around countering that. So I feel like now people are able to explore a little bit more. We're seeing a whole ton of odd and even decks. We're seeing quests come back, and not just Quest Rogue, but other quests as well. So it's like people are kind of like branching out now, as opposed to just being like, okay, I need to either play Q block or counter Q block.
Yeah. And you know what else is good? Like the timing of these, I think, was really well done. The 22nd, you give the pro players and top streamers, a week or so to kind of tool around before they then have to do their crazy crunch time, try to finish high legend, right? So you kind of let the meta sort itself just a little bit before these guys then kind of start to settle on some things that they think actually works. So yeah, the whole thing was done. This is, I mean, spoiler alert, this is the happiest I've ever been with a set of nerfs, and we'll talk about it a little more in the news section, but let's go right into it.
Good news, everyone!
So, we've had a couple of tournaments. Joss, you're going to have to lead me through these because I just got back from San Francisco. Garrett went to New York. We're all over the place, but thankfully, Jocelyn's here to sort through the esports news and what's going on. But we just had the APAC playoffs, which is, of course, Asia Pacific. And they basically had the same format that we had in Americas and EU, correct? It's just a best-of-5 conquest with a ban?
Exactly. So we've got our best of 5 conquest, and they did the same thing again that they've done for all 3 of these playoffs, which I think is a huge improvement, where instead of going from Swiss into the just single elimination, go to like the top 1 sort of thing, finish all the finals and stuff, they've got rid of that completely this year. And instead now they're doing this double elimination, 2 pools, coming up with the top 4 players instead, kind of a bracket. And it's so much more fun to watch because it's like every game actually matters. Like last year when they were playing through semifinals and finals, it was like nobody cares. All 4 of these players have qualified, so these games really don't mean anything. So
yeah, they just stop, right, when they get their qualifiers now.
They
It's
just
not
stop,
about
yeah,
winning
they
a
go-
tournament anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they find their they go through the whole double elimination. There's 2
Mhm.
different pools, so they get 2 winners out of each pool, and then those are the ones that move on to the championship, and that's the end of the playoffs. So it's much more interesting now because now you're getting to like literally every match matters. You've got people who are actually going to be eliminated, and then like all the way to the very end, it's like, okay, this person's through, like every game matters, and it's
'cause that's the
so
story.
much more exciting to watch.
So also, they didn't have double elimination in the top 8 after, right? Before, like it was
After
just you
Swiss, yeah,
you could
last
get
year it
through
was
all
like-
of Swiss and then lose your first game and then be done, right?
Exactly.
Which is
So
now
you
another
go
huge change.
undefeated and then be
Yeah.
kicked out in the top 8, and that's now changed. So you can go undefeated through Swiss, and you still have to lose twice in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So it gives a little bit more wiggle room to the players, and I think it's a little bit more fair because I think it happened 3 or 4 times last year where we would have an undefeated Swiss player get knocked out in the quarterfinals, and it was just like, that really sucks and feels like it shouldn't work like that.
Yeah, it was really sad to watch guys go, have this amazing run and then maybe just draw poorly in one match, right? And I think that's really the idea, is to get rid of that. So yeah, I think overall the changes have been really, really successful. We're seeing, in general, the guys who brought the best lineups, who maybe worked the hardest on their preparation, becoming the guys who end up qualifying, and not just somebody who happened to draw really well once getting to the top 8. So who actually made it out of Asia Pacific?
So they aren't actually any names that I'm familiar with, but
Yeah, I'm not either.
Glory, Blood Trail, Jinsu, and Tensoku move on to
Okay.
the Summer Championships from APAC. I'm not familiar with any of the names, but Surrender just barely missed out on the top 8, who I think is one of the best known APAC players. Aside from our world champion right now, Tom60229, who had an unfortunately terrible showing and went 0-3
Ooh,
in Swiss. So
ouch. Well,
yeah,
I think he'll be just fine. He's a former world champ, like he's the current world champ.
Exactly. Which I'm trying to remember exactly how it works. I think it's just in the Hearthstone Masters program that once you get to a certain level in the Masters, you get automatic invites. But I thought that the world champion also got an automatic invite into the first championship, but I could be wrong about that.
I hope so.
It might
I
be
think
that he got an automatic invite into the playoffs. That
Okay.
might be what I'm thinking of.
I
But,
feel like that's the way it should work, because I would like to see the world champion return. Like
Mhm.
obviously I don't want to just gift him a spot at BlizzCon. Well, not BlizzCon, but the World Championship.
But yeah,
At least give them a good shot at getting back without having to do the whole grind again, because I think I feel personally like getting that job done earns you like a little bit of a break, right? Because it is such a grind. But this is now a player that you want to see, like you want to dethrone him to then win the next title, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I would like to see them get this in this type of format, at least like into one of the playoffs,
Well,
and
and I
then
think too, because you did mention the whole idea of how much of a grind it is to actually go through and make these playoffs and make these championships. And because it's such a grind, I feel like a lot of our former world champions, like obviously Firebat jumps right into my mind, but they kind of turn to just the life of having fun and streaming, because they kind of make their name and then they're like, okay, I'm just going to stream now. And, like I've won the world championship, that there's, no real drive to do that whole big grind again. So
pretty much
they
every
just
single
kind
one of them so far. Pavel
Yeah.
played a lot of tournaments, but I don't think he seemed a lot more like, like I'll just show up, and then he was winning stuff like the invite tournaments. But yeah, he wasn't on the same grind that he was before, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like
Kaka
Tom
like
now,
completely disappeared. I don't know what that guy's doing anymore.
but yeah, and Tom too has been streaming quite a lot lately too. So it seems like that's kind of been the pattern. And I feel like if there were kind of some shortcuts, for lack of a better term, for our world champions into playoffs and into potentially the seasonal championships, I feel like that would be helpful for the scene, and to kind of like create more throughput with the just player stories, like we don't have a whole lot of stories in Hearthstone right now, not the way that traditional sports seem to have. So it would be nice to have, not a constant revolving door of champions.
By the way, can I just real quick, this is a sidebar, but Do people complain that hockey has too much RNG after an expansion team makes the Stanley Cup Finals in their first season?
Not really. Why?
Okay. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, that doesn't happen in baseball. But I will. I don't know a lot about hockey, but I guess the story is that they got a really good goalie, and that was really like they're getting carried by this goalie, right? Because in hockey,
That
like your best player's on the
all the
ice like a
time.
third of the game, but your goalie's on the ice the entire game. So they made a smart move by getting a really good goalie. Anyway, it's funny because I was watching from afar and I'm like, holy crap, they did it? What? They're in the freaking finals? Okay. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, let's talk about DreamHack because not only will I be at DreamHack in Austin coming up soon, but there was another DreamHack that recently just happened, and this was in France, right?
Yeah, this happened in Tours, which was a little bit confusing, not so much for the EU audience, but definitely for the NA audience because the location, like the city is called Tours. So DreamHack Tours, HCT Tour. It's very confusing. But yes, that's where it was. It was in France. It was another best of 5 with a band, except for this one was Last Hero Standing, which I believe it's the first HCT tour stop to actually take advantage of Last Hero Standing. Most of them have just been Conquest, which is also what we saw the playoffs, but they actually changed the rules. I believe it was part of the rule changes that came in this year that you could actually use Last Hero Standing as a way to qualify. Like you didn't have to do Conquest. So we got to watch Last Hero Standing at DreamHack, and it was awesome. But it was very, very similar. Like, I'm so happy we got these nerfs because even though it was a different format, we had basically the same sort of decks that were being represented. So we had paladins, we had warlocks, we had druids. The spiteful druids were very well represented. The only big change really between APAC and DreamHack was that Shaman actually had really good representation because you were able to much more easily like target decks. So if your opponent won with Paladin, you could queue up your counter deck, which is Shaman. And then so it had a lot more representation than they did at APAC. So yeah, we did see some Shamans. They had some really good win rates against what they were targeting, which was mages and paladins. They were like somewhere around, I think, 75% win rate against mage and about 70% win rate against paladin. So it's a much more interesting format, I think, to watch sometimes just because of the counter queuing that you actually can do. So
it is, but I will say we played the last season of the Dills Hearthstone League. We played Last Hero Standing. And I know a lot of the pros prefer it because of the counter queuing and the ability to more strategically build a lineup around beating one deck, right? Like you just don't let that one deck ever get through. But there's something to be said for just having to win with every deck that you bring, right? Like that felt awkward to me. That like I went into these matches sometimes and I would just queue my first deck and then I'd win and then I'd win and then I'd win and I'd be like, okay, cool, I guess that was the match, you know. And it's like if they didn't, and then especially in the Dills Hearthstone League, it's a lot more relaxed. There's not people grinding, figuring out the exact perfect lineups where then you can target like, oh, I know he's going to have Paladin, I know he's going to have Warlock, I know he's going to have this. We're kind of doing some crazier, weird, memey stuff there. So sometimes you show up and you're like, okay, I'll let his Warlock through. Wait, he's playing Echo Zoo Warlock? What? You know, you're just,
I was not prepared for that.
And you're like, I don't know what to do now. And then it just kicks your ass and you have no chance. So it's kind of weird where at least in that scenario, if someone brings a curveball, you know, you're like, okay, well, strike one on the curveball, but you can't do that to me again. You still have to beat me with these other decks. So there's like a lot of merit to both. I like the fact that both can exist now, though. I think that's really the cool thing about this. Isn't just that one is definitely better than the other, but just that you can see tournaments that matter in both formats. I like to see other formats pop up as well. I don't know exactly what those are, but I like variety in my Hearthstone.
Yeah. No, I do too. And I think that's why I enjoyed watching DreamHack so much, is because it was like just a change from Conquest, right? So you did actually get to see like shamans and warriors. And I mean, like we had sweeps with shaman and sweeps with warrior, and it's like that just never, like, you don't see those decks in those classes as often in Conquest, or you know, asserting so much dominance as they did over the weekend of DreamHack. So it was nice for a change for sure. And so yeah, we had Maverick actually win the event, so he gets some points towards HCT season 2. And other than that, we had Tyler and Orange actually went 7-2 through Swiss, but just missed out on top 16 based on tiebreakers because we didn't actually have anyone go undefeated through Swiss. So it kind of messed up. Normally 7-2 would get you into the top 16, but yeah, so just because of tiebreakers there, they didn't quite make it through, which was a little bit heartbreaking because both of them were featured on stream, and then both of them went to Twitter and went, I went 7-2, I'm in the top 16, oh my god, I'm so excited. And then it's like, oh, no, actually,
Yeah.
you're not.
Never
Sorry.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with these DreamHack open fields. They're huge, you know?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it
Tons
was
and tons of people show up.
Yeah, 230 something players, I think, in tours.
Yeah. But I mean, that's great too, because then you get these stories, right? You know, I remember the first time J. Billy B kind of crossed my path as a person to take note of was a DreamHack event here in Austin. And, you know, now he's like casting tournaments and works for Blizzard and does a bunch of their stat stuff for him. And, you know, it's like, I feel like those are moments, you know, he made his name for himself doing other things, but like those are moments where you like prove kind of, Terrence M was another story like at the time where it's like, it's an open field. He's not getting invites. You prove you have what it takes in these open fields, and then suddenly the invites start to happen. So,
yeah.
Thank you, DreamHack, for continuing to do what you do. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to being there on the 1st is the first day, a Friday, and
June 1st till the 3rd.
Yeah, and I'm technically supposed to work on the 1st, but I'm going to try to figure that out because I totally spaced that was when it starts, and I really want to be there for the whole damn thing. So, but even if I can't get that covered, I will be there for the Saturday and the Sunday, and I'll be there hanging out. So anybody who's going to be in DreamHack or in Austin for DreamHack, please look for me. All right, let's talk real quick about the nerfs, because you did talk about this last week, but I wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm just going to like let you have at it because everyone already knows what I think.
Okay, cool. Well, I just, you know, the one thing that I tweeted about this was that I tweeted that I think Blizzard is starting to learn from past mistakes when it comes to nerfs. And I think this whole set of nerfs is very much just a direct result of everything that they've done in the past that didn't quite work, and then going too far on certain cards.
There's no Warsong commander in this set of nerfs.
Yeah, finding weird ways to nerf them when there's just the simplest, most straightforward way to nerf the card that is actually effective, and that is the mana cost. I mean, the mana cost is a huge deal. You just raise that by 1, and it completely changes the card's value. And that, I think, rather than completely change, you know, because people talked all these weird things. Okay, make Call to Arms only recruit 1 cost minions. Make you know, Possess Lackey only summon you know, like demons that cost this amount, or like, you know, all these like weird things, and you're just like, well, you could just make it cost 1 more, and it kind of works out. I did really like though Dark Pact, where instead of making it cost like 2 or something, they looked at it and they said the combo potential of this card is still very cool, and that's what makes it cool. The problem is that we're also now giving Warlocks
ridiculous healing.
Ridiculous amount, yeah. So we're taking one of their downfall, one of their weaknesses, one of the things that's supposed to be a weakness of Warlock, and it's not a weakness anymore, right? The fact that they can life tap with Reckless Abandon, find all the things they need, and then just heal all that health back up is just ridiculous. So
for 1 mana.
Yeah, for 1 mana. But you know, being able to put a Possessed Lackey on the board, Dark Pact it, pull out a demon from your deck and all that kind of stuff, that was the cool thing that the card did. And then the uncool thing was then you also healed for way more than you ever should have. And it's just such a huge value card. It just did so many things too well. So I really like that they did that there. I think Spiteful Summoner is the one card where I thought, I don't mind if you nuke this card from orbit. Making it cost 7 totally does, you know, it does make the card a lot weaker. I didn't like the idea that I saw a lot of people talk about, which was it would burn the spell in your deck, because the problem with that, and I get how that makes the card weaker, I do get that. The problem is if it still costs 6 and it pulls Ultimate Infestation and puts a 10 cost card on the board, it's still doing the thing that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't get to do it again, it's not that you did it again that was the problem. It's that you did it on turn 6 and you pulled out a 12/12 that couldn't be targeted with spells.
Yeah.
And it's just allowing it to still do that broken thing, even if it does it less often, even if it's more of a risk, put it into your deck, it still does that thing on turn 6, which is the problem with the card. So I do see why making it cost 7 now means that it's, you know, power level has gone down quite a bit. They could have made this thing cost 8, still getting a 4/4 and a 12/12. You know,
Well, yeah,
lot of
because
the
I
time.
think the bad result is a 4/4 and an 8/8.
Yeah.
Like it's still
Right now,
12/12
in
worth
standard,
of
yes.
stats. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a card that I could have seen them do. Yeah, I did see. I think one of the ideas that I liked the best was, it's a 6-mana 4/4. Pulls a spell out of your deck and then transforms it into a random minion of that cost, rather than giving you the 4/4 and the other thing. You basically just get a single
You get
minion.
the one thing.
Yeah, and it's the 4/4 plus. It's just kind of like, oh my god, it's just so many stats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like this has seemed to work, as we've noticed that Spiteful Priest and Spiteful Druid are not around anymore. So I guess.
Well, yeah,
it's
after
done
the
what it's supposed to
rotation,
do.
Spiteful Priest kind of fell off anyways because Spiteful Druid was just the better Spiteful deck.
Sure.
So, yeah, Spiteful Priest hasn't really been played too much since the new expansion came out. But yeah,
I would
Spiteful
still
Druid
see
has
it,
dropped
and it
a
was
little
still, it was still one of the best ways to do it. The issue too is that a card like this, it also causes design issues, right? So
Yeah.
can we make really dope 10-cost spells if we have this card in the game? Is that a problem? And I don't like cards that potentially allow you to alter how the design team has to look at stuff, like going for it. Makes it harder. I think Call to Arms was another one where it's like, yeah, that's just the simple right nerf. It now falls into line, like you're paying the amount you probably should for what the card actually does, and takes it out of Even Paladin, which is a huge deal. And
yeah,
Crystal
Even Paladin just like fell right off.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone.
It's
because
just Odd Paladin and Murloc Paladin now.
And Odd Paladin doesn't even really want to play this card because pulling 3 1-drops is not nearly as good.
Not nearly as good as paying 4 mana and pulling 3 2-drops.
Yeah, exactly. The Crystal Core one, some people express worries to me on Twitter about this, but I want to put those to bed by saying this does a lot of things. Making it 4/4s instead of 5/5s changes lethal math and gives the opponent extra turns, right? Where a lot of times what happens with Quest Rogue is by the time they get the quest done, they are pretty far behind on the board. They're pretty far behind in life totals. They've been spending the entire game just doing this one thing, which is get the quest done. But then because your health is 30 and it's in chunks of 5, you can do things like 25, 30 damage in a turn pretty easily. Whereas now you'll be doing like 24 damage, 16 damage. Like you'll be doing like different the integers change, right? So suddenly that means that there's an extra turn.
Board with chargers, right? That's still not enough, right? That's 28.
Yeah, it's 28 if you have 7 4/4 chargers. Yeah. So it just changes the lethal math, which just ends up giving the opponent extra turns, which a lot of times it's like, I just need one more turn, and then they just killed me from 30 because they just put a bunch of charges on the board, right? So the fact that they are now 4/4s, it also brings into line with more removal spells, right? So obviously, like Flame Strike will now kill them all. You can get Dragon's Fury and hit like a polymorph or something that'll kill them all. You can do more things to affect 4/4s. They'll be able to trade in better ways into your board. Like your board will do better against 4/4s and 5/5s, obviously. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looks like, oh, they're still doing the thing that's the problem, but it changes the math so much that it does weaken the deck quite a bit. And I actually played against a Quest Rogue who got his quest done fairly early, and I was able to beat him because of exactly this. Like, I needed just like one more turn to be able to hit his face, and he would have been able to kill me if they were 5/5s, but they were 4/4s, and I didn't die.
Right. The only consideration I think when it comes to Crystal Core is that, we are seeing, and we'll talk about it a bit in a second in strategy, but we are seeing more of the just priests in general, but quest priests specifically, and Anduin doesn't kill them anymore. So that kind of was one of the big swing backs potentially if you were playing priest, is then you could just drop Anduin and kill a whole bunch of their 5/5s. But
if you were a good Quest Rogue player against a priest who hadn't played Anduin, you didn't just drop a full board of 5/5s until you killed them, right? You would just play 2 or 3, and you would just bait them to be like, I have to Anduin you now, and then the next turn you'd be like, boar, and then kill them. And then lastly, I do want to talk about Naga Sea Witch. I am really excited to get back into Wild now because Naga Sea Witch was sapping all of the fun out of it for me, and not because it was too good of a deck, too good of a card, blah 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 blah. We all know this stuff. It's just that in some games you just died on turn 5, and in some games they didn't draw it and you beat them, and it's whatever. And now turn 8, okay, cool. Turn 8, drop a whole bunch of 8/8s. That's cool, man. Good job.
Mhm.
Like, it's just, it
I was
gives
gonna
me a
say,
chance
so
to try
the
to kill you
change-
first, right?
The change from 5 to 8, like it feels like they nuked Nagasiwich from orbit. Like,
Sure.
is
No, it was the
this-
biggest nerf out of all of
Yeah.
them. But it was the one
I'm
that
not
needed
saying
the
it was a
biggest
bad
nerf.
thing. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, do you think that these Nagasiwich Giants decks being stalled 3 turns are going to see any kind of play whatsoever now?
Yes, but you have to alter how you play it. The real issue too is with the Nagasiwich was, I don't know if you remember when they had the Wild Open and Chalky basically just brought 4 Nagasiwich decks and then made it into the top 8, and he was just like, he had like Nagasiwich Druid and Nagasiwich Paladin and Nagasiwich Warlock, and he was like, yeah, I mean, I just put it into any deck and I just put a bunch of Giants and Nagasiwich and I win. Now you're gonna have to build a specific deck that's basically a control deck that has this one giant swing, right? And that's okay to me. I think that's kind of how the card should have operated. I wouldn't have minded if they had made it just go back to what it originally did, because when you read the card text, you're like, it should just make everything cost 5. Like, when I look at it, like, it doesn't say set the base cost of all your cards to 5. It just says your cards cost 5. So it is kind of a weird thing. But whatever, it's fine. I get it. I get why they did it. The code works better this way, whatever. As they introduce new cards and things like that, you can end up finding cool interactions with Nagasiwich. That's all fine, but it should cost what it's supposed to cost if it's going to have an effect that powerful. So,
That powerful, yeah.
Yeah, so I think all of it was well done, and congrats to Team 5 for apparently pulling it off, because now looking at the meta, which we're going to get into in a second after a word from a sponsor, has been much, much better. We've only got 2 days of data, but
it's better than it has been.
yes, I'm excited to start playing a lot. And I do admit that going into my trip to San Francisco, I was noticing that I was finding other things to do in Hearthstone besides hit that ladder. Like, I wasn't just clicking the play button as often. I was doing other things, So this is definitely going to, I think, rekindle my interest in playing the ladder. But before we move into strategy, let's talk about our sponsor this week. One of our sponsors this week, one of our longest running sponsors, one of my favorites. It is Harry's.com, Harry's Razors. You can go, of course, to harrys.com/TAC and get a nice deal on these. But let's just real quick talk about, I brought my Harry's razor with me on vacation. It was wonderful. It's like, the other thing too, it's like the little kit they send you. It's not all bulky and stuff. I just put that right into my my backpack, and I was like good to go. And I always hate when I buy the little travel like thing that has like a little deodorant and a little razor and a whatever, and then I go and I'm
Travel
like
kit?
and I'm like scraping my face with some terrible razor. This was much better for me. Thank you, Harrys.com. I shaved my shoulders, stayed nice and nice and hair free while I was in San Francisco. So yeah, Harrys.com, great. Okay. So they've changed a couple things. Let me make sure I get this right. They do have a wonderful offer though for our TAC listeners. The trial set, which is valued at $13, when you sign up at harrys.com/TAC, you get the weighted ergonomic razor handle, 5 precision engineered blades with lubricating strip and a trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel.
I love the shave gel.
Do you really?
It makes me smell like a boy, but I
it?
love it. I lather so richly.
And you get a travel blade cover, which is what I was able to use really well. So definitely go check it out. And yeah, harrys.com/TAC. We get tweets all the time from people who are like, I'm a convert, man. I just tried it out because of you guys. And now I'm just excited all the time when I get my new Harry's razor set in. So yeah, definitely go check it out. And also let them know that you found out about harrys.com through us. All right, let's move on to some strategy talk.
It's the whole world.
Nope,
It's the
that's
whole
not
world
the right one. That's Crazy Game Stories.
You got it!
That's fine. It'll do. Apparently, I don't have strategy on my stream deck. Wow.
Uh-oh.
Whoops. All right, well, ignore that. Hit it very hard is what he normally would say. All right. Let's talk about this meta since the nerf. Let's see. This is the current data from hsreplay.net only since the most recent patch. So what we're looking at right now is we're looking at the most played decks according to hsreplay.com, and we're looking at all of every rank, legend through rank 25. So this is everybody. This isn't just legend only, right? And right now you're seeing at the top most played Odd Rogue and Miracle Rogue, and I'm not super surprised about Odd Rogue. I am a little surprised about Miracle Rogue, but now when I think about it, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Like I said, Rogue is definitely one of the most played decks. A lot of people really, really liking it after all of the nerfs. And I think Miracle Rogue specifically, because I've seen a lot of decks that are actually including Fan of Knives. And since Paladin didn't really, like, as much as Call to Arms got nerfed, Paladin didn't necessarily get nerfed into oblivion. We still see Murloc Paladin. We still see Odd Paladin. So there's quite a lot of little 1/1 boards floating around out there, because Token Druid is also another one with Whispering Woods, I think, the one that gives you a 1/1 for each card in your hand. So there seems to be a lot of like 1/1 tokens floating around. So I think that's why Miracle Rogue has seen a little bit of a resurgence, because most of them are running that Fan of Knives. I think that's really making a big difference. It's just the ability to clear a lot of those 1/1 boards.
Sure, and I think one of the things that was holding Miracle Rogue back as well was just even Paladin, right? Like, I think even Paladin was holding a lot of decks back. It was just faster than all of the other aggro style decks, right? Like,
absolutely.
It got there faster than you did, and it put sticky boards up that you couldn't deal with things like Rogue removal. Like, this is one of the things that Rogue does really well, is things like Backstab, things like Fan of Knives, using the dagger to effectively clear off boards and things like that. And then these boards that Paladin was making on turn 4 and beyond were just so sticky because of all the divine shields. Because a lot of times you were putting on 2/3s onto the board that enraged. You were doing all this stuff, and then if you ever got those boards to live, you were turning them all into 3/3s, right? So like, it's just that deck was just holding so many other decks back. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this change to Call to Arms, is it's going to kind of unleash the other aggro style decks, the other decks that just didn't line up removal wise with what even Paladin was able to do. So I think that's one of the reasons why Token Druid's able to come back. Tempo Mage is another one, where Tempo Mage was like, they kind of put a couple of threats on the board and then they hit you in the face a few times and they burn you out. Well, even Paladin was just like, no, well, I'm just going to kill you, but way before you ever get to do any of that. They didn't have AoE and stuff, so they just, they couldn't get the job done. Spell Hunter is another one. We're seeing a ton of Spell Hunter on the ladder right now. And it was another one that just got outpaced.
Super popular. Yeah, Hunter's really, really popular now. And there's more than just one build, too. There's a Spell Hunter and there's a Secret Hunter that's running around, as well as Recruit Hunter. And they're all doing quite well now that kind of Warlock isn't a problem anymore. And like you said, the Paladin isn't just rushing them down.
Yeah. The weird thing about Spell Hunter to me, and I haven't played a lot of it, but it's a deck that always interested me, it's just, you're a deck with only spells, yet somehow you seem to always have minions on the board.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's so many ways to generate minions through their spells. So right now we're looking at games played. If I click over and I just look at win rate, and these are always, you got to be a little bit wary of these numbers, because as you see, this top Spell Hunter has only 450 recorded games, right? So, oh, look at that win rate, 60%. Oh, I should definitely take this out on the ladder. It's like, well, out of all the, I don't know how many people are logging games using HS Replay, but it's up there. It's quite a few people.
Well, that being said, though, if you look at like even just this first page here that I'm looking at, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10 of the top win rate decks are some sort of build of Spell Hunter.
Yep.
Yeah, well, some sort of Spell Hunter, and then there's another mid range and a Recruit up here too. Like, it's just, Hunter is doing quite well right now in terms of win rate. But again, you're right. Like, the sample sizes are small-ish. I mean, like, the highest sample size for a Spell Hunter with a 59.5% win rate is 4,600 games played, which is better than 400 games played. But still, yeah, grain of salt with these small pools of games for sure.
Sure. And what I will do oftentimes when I use this data is I will, like, okay, let's say I'm looking to play Spell Hunter, right? And I see, okay, here's one with 8,600 games played. I'll click on that one, and I will take a peek at their deck list, right? And this is maybe like the first one I'll grab, the one I'll start with. I'll be like, okay, this is the most popular one on the ladder. But when you have the most popular one on the ladder, you also do have to remember that that's the one people are going to expect you to be playing.
Yes.
So what you could do is you could take this as your starting place and then go like, okay, now why is this one winning so much more? With, you know, obviously smaller sample size, but what changes did they make? And like, you can look and see all that's changed here is they have a rat trap instead of an arcane shot. I don't know if necessarily the rat trap is the thing. Like, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to be like, I don't believe that that's what's making this version way better. But I will say that having a rat trap might mean that someone will get suckered in to my rat trap because they're only playing around Wandering Monster, Explosive Trap, Frozen, you know, Freezing Trap. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, what? Rat trap? And then a 6/6 might just like get me the victory, right? So
yeah,
these are the kinds of things you use.
There's been Quest Priest that is kind of shown up, and so that does include Anduin. So often they're playing a whole bunch of low-cost cards in one turn because they're trying to refresh their hero power. But also the even Shaman build with Hagatha, they're, again, usually playing a few different minions in a turn because they're trying to generate spells, and then sometimes they're playing those spells in a turn. So I know, like, I've been caught by Rat Trap a couple times in the last couple days because I've been playing the crap out of Quest Priest. I think it's super fun. It's the one everyone's been complaining about because the games go on forever, but it's super fun to me. So, but yeah, like both of those decks, the Shaman and the Quest Priest, are both kind of are trying to play multiple cards, 3 or more in a turn. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's not one that you think to play around because you're right. Like, we never thought that anyone would use it. We never thought it would be good. But then, yeah, I've definitely been hit by it a couple times.
And if you get caught once, it's like the equivalent of getting, you know, like a Van Cleef or something on the board where suddenly you're like, I'm just dead. I can't deal with this. Exactly. I do want to talk about this Quest Priest though, because this is very exciting that this deck is here now. Like you said, the game's going on forever. There's a couple of really interesting things about this deck. Like Quest Priest, we all kind of know what Quest Priest does, right? It gets Amara, puts their health total to 40. But what this deck gets to do... Well, and
you can actually do it twice, because if you put Zola the Gorgon in as well, then you get another copy of Amara, so you essentially have like 110 health over the course of a game, which is insane. Yeah, that's so like warrior level health.
You play your Amara the same turn you play your Zola, and then you just get an extra Amara in your hand, and then it's like, well, so I've often seen when that happens, the opponent just concedes because they're like, oh, like I'm not gonna be able to kill you through an 8/8 with taunt, and then kill you from
do 40 damage,
and then kill you from 40 again through another 8/8 with taunt. So yeah, but then the other interesting thing about this deck is Archbishop Benedictus, and you know, this is how. So people might look at this and go, why? But this is how you beat other heavy control decks, right? So. You just outlast them because you don't ever run out of cards, and they eventually do. The other thing is this card plays really well with Psychic Scream. So you Psychic Scream a bunch of stuff back into their deck. You know, even if they're getting close to fatigue and you're getting close to fatigue, Psychic Scream all their stuff back in, and then Archbishop Benedictus, and then you get all those cards in your deck too, and suddenly you got all this juice, right? You can just go forever.
Well, and then, of course, Shadow Reaper Anduin. Well, yeah, Shadow Reaper Anduin. But it's not only that with the Archbishop. The thing that he helps counter, there's actually a new build of a control-style Warlock that Rin, still plays Rin. So if they manage to play Rin, get all their seals down, and destroy your deck, you have Benedictus to then just steal their deck back. So then you're not going to be thrown right into fatigue. So he's got a couple of different reasons for being played, and I mean, he's super fun. And then but yeah, you basically never get fatigued. You live forever, you don't get fatigued. And the thing I found hilarious over on HS Replay is if you sort by like duration of game, Quest Priest is longer than any other deck by over 2 minutes. I think it has like an 11.5-minute duration of game. And the next closest one is like 9 minutes. So
even
this
against
is super control-y.
aggro, you don't really lose because you got Spirit Lash, Dustbreaker, and then also you're just playing a bunch of like a Rotten Apple Bomb. You're like throwing taunts onto the board, and things like that.
Heals,
Primordial Drake. So yeah, it's just it's to me, it's like this is a deck that it hit at the right time, right? Like it can beat all these, because I think we might be moving into potentially a control meta. And
yeah, I thought it was going to go aggro, but it does seem to be going down the path of control, at least for now.
And there are aggro decks out there, but I mean, basically the best aggro deck was one of the hardest hit by the nerfs, right? So
exactly.
Right now you're looking, if you are playing aggro, you know, Baku Hunter kind of just went out of style like forever ago and hasn't really made a comeback. If you're looking at aggro, you're basically looking at odd rogue right now, right?
Mhm.
And I guess Spell Hunter does oftentimes play like an aggro deck at a certain point. It kind of flips the switch and starts going face. But yeah, like I'm looking at all these decks and I'm seeing tons and tons of control out there. So this is a deck that actually has a pretty good matchup against other control decks because of that Archbishop Benedictus. So
And
really
like you
interesting
said,
stuff.
most of the time people are just like, I really don't want to try to figure out how to beat you, so I just give up as soon as you Zola your Amara.
Yeah, you're Amara. So I
Yeah.
want to also talk about this Warlock build that you just mentioned. It's an even Warlock, which I think is really cool. And I expected this to actually be a thing, but it was just pushed out by the fact that Cube Warlock and the other Control Warlock just was better, right? So there was no real reason to do anything else with Warlock. But this Warlock deck has some really cool stuff in it. Namely, I would say the fact that we're seeing like the turn 3 Mountain Giant, because you get to tap on one. And you tap on you tap like right away, right? And then so you're tapping on 1, tapping on 2, playing a Mountain Giant, right? And like normally you would have had to wait, and then you always get the turn 4 Mountain Giant. Now you're getting the turn 3 Mountain Giant, which is, well, that's one whole turn earlier. That's way harder to deal with. But we're seeing like things like Dread Infernal come back in. Obviously, we mentioned the Wrenn, but Hooked Reaver I thought was always like a really interesting card and was never really seeing play because it's not the demon you want to pull with your Possessed Lackey, right? So I would never put it in. But yeah, this whole thing is just kind of awesome to look at. But this is maybe where Warlock is headed. It seems like a much more fair deck, that's for sure. And
well,
more
yeah, because
interesting to play.
even though Possessed Lackey technically would still fit into this deck, you can't play Dark Pact, and it doesn't. You also can't play Void Lord, so it would pull things you wouldn't necessarily want pulled, and it's that much more expensive now, so people just aren't running it, and it feels a lot better. It feels a lot more fair, and this list also runs Gul'dan, obviously, and Gul'dan himself again feels much more fair because you're not pulling out 3 Void Lords and a whole bunch of Doom Guards. Exactly. Like the stuff you're getting back is like a 2/4 taunt, a 4/4. Like it feels a lot better to play against. But it's still powerful enough that you can feel good when you're the one playing it.
Sure. Also, the healing is drastically cut down because you can't run the Dark Pact anymore, and so instead you're seeing Drain Soul, which is like a fair healing card, right? So you still have your Spellstones, but your Spellstones are a lot weaker when you don't have your turn 1 Kobold Librarian, right? So even that, it's just like, okay, well now it's Vulgar Homunculus and Hellfire, which are making my Spellstones go up. So it's harder. Oh, and Dread Inferno. But it's harder to actually get those to do that ridiculous 4 damage or 7 damage for 4 mana, also heal for 7, which was just nutty. So yeah, I think that deck is a lot cooler. And then I do want to bring up, because this is another deck that I'm seeing a ton of. Let me see if I can find one of them. And that is the Shudderwalk Shaman. Shaman. The new Shudderwalk Shaman is quite different than what we had seen before. We were just seeing this like OTK style Shudderwalk Shaman. This one is a lot more. This isn't the one I've been seeing. Okay, I don't know what this one. Where's the one that has like it's like kind of a tempo-y style deck? Is this the one? You know what I'm talking about? Like it kind of plays. It was playing like Fireflies and stuff like that.
Playing Fireflies.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it here. There was one that was it was playing it was still playing, obviously. Was it just called Elemental Shaman?
Possibly, there are Elemental Shaman versions now.
So this deck, it's much more of a tempo-based Shaman deck that then also has Shudderwalk, but it's got like Keleseth, right? So, even if you're not like killing them with Shudderwalk, but you're getting a whole bunch of battle cries that are very effective back, and then once you get to that point, you're very hard to beat after the Shudderwalk turn. Even if it doesn't get you, this non-stop, never-ending Shudderwalk thing, it's got that kind of power to just get to that point. Oh, I haven't pulled all of my battle cries. Okay, I can still just play Shudderwalk because it's still just going to be good, right? And then you can just kind of win with value minions after that, and obviously Haggith of the Witch, giving you just insane amounts of spells. So.
And there's also the most played version of that Elemental Shaman Shudderwalk build has Hemet in it, which is really interesting because that was a card that we thought was going to be kind of more popular than it ended up being, because it has the ability to just thin your deck, right? To get
Yeah.
rid of all the little crap that you don't necessarily want to play later on in the game and just pull your big bomb good stuff. So
Well, it
I
finds your
find it
Shutterwalk, it finds your Calamos, it finds,
Yeah.
your Agatha, like, yeah.
exactly, yeah. So it gets rid of all that low cost stuff that you don't necessarily want to pull on turn 8, 9, and 10. So
Mhm.
I like that that Hemet is seeing some play as well.
Yeah, it's really cool because this is kind of what I wanted with a card. I didn't want Shutterwalk to just get murdered and destroyed from the game. And
Yeah.
I get what it was doing was annoying and bad for competitive play. But the card in itself is very interesting and creates these kind of scenarios where I can build a deck around something like this. Not an OTK, but just something like, okay, I know that if I get to this point, I'm likely to win like 95% of the time, right? So it's just about kind of getting to that point and then doing something really, really cool. So yeah, I like that we've seen some innovation around the Shutterwalk, because it was really annoying before, and it was a card I think everybody just wanted gone. But I think in its current form, it's definitely I think a card that I think can be healthy and really cool for the game going forward. So lots and lots of cool stuff. Any other decks that you want to bring up that we haven't talked about yet?
I think that was pretty much it. Like I mentioned, the quests are kind of making a comeback. So Quest Priest is making a comeback, but also Warriors. So we saw actually the deck that Maverick ended up winning DreamHack with is, I think, going to become a little bit more popular. That was just a Fatigue, Dead Man's Hand type warrior, but I feel like that and the Odd Control Warrior are kind of posed potentially to make a comeback. I think it's going to take a couple weeks for the meta to shake out because people just really aren't playing Warrior right now, unfortunately. But I think it could have a place in this meta because there's a lot of control stuff going on, and Warrior is like the king of control, right? So
sure. So yeah, Odd Quest Warrior, and then just Quest Warrior on its own are both decks that I have been seeing a decent amount of on the ladder. I'm super surprised that Rush Warrior hasn't really gotten to where I thought it would get to, but maybe somebody hasn't built it properly. Maybe they just don't have enough tools. I don't know.
Yep. Unfortunately, I haven't played much of any of the Warrior because I don't have Scourge Lord Garrosh. So yeah.
I don't think you need him though in the quest stuff, do you?
Not specifically in the quest one, but in the like rush recruit kind of one, you definitely do.
Yeah. To me, like Warrior was in such an odd place for so long, where it was just, why is Warrior the best aggro deck? What is going on here? Why is Warrior not a good control deck anymore? So it's nice to see Warrior kind of go back to where it's supposed to be. Paladin decks, by the way, where like it's basically just Odd and Murlocs is where we're at now, right?
Right now it is, yeah. I mean, you've got some people who are trying to make the OTK Death Knight Paladin work. They've been kind of trying to figure that deck out and make it viable for basically since Death Knights became a thing. So, I mean, that's probably my favorite Paladin deck, just because I think it's really freaking cool to like just live and control until finally you just win because of your hero power. So I like that one. There's also potentially the buff Paladins too. Like, the thing is, Odd and Murlocs are so
like quest buff Paladin?
Good. Huh?
Like quest buff Paladin?
Yeah, with what's the one that you play her and then she gets all the buffs that you've played during the game?
Yeah, Lunessa.
Lunessa. Yeah, her. That to me is also a really fun sort of variant of Paladin, but I just think that Odd and Murloc are so powerful, they're gonna be the more popular ones. But especially if we continue this kind of control meta where you've got things like Quest Priest healing a ridiculous amount, and like just decks like that are focused on living forever and controlling. If you can kill them in one turn, like Paladin potentially can, then that might become more popular over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if we do end up in the control meta, a true OTK that takes a long time to get there, that can OTK through any amount of health, it does make some sense for sure. So Odd Paladin, like I'm looking at it, still looks really powerful. I mean, you just, you never played Call to Arms anyway, right? So you didn't lose that. Yeah. Even
if you like play Call to Arms, it's like one more way to just put more things on the board, and you're just like, they just put so many tokens on the board that you almost just can't clear them, right? Like if you're spending all your time like minion trading or whatever, you're just never going to kill them, right?
Yeah.
Like you basically just, when you see them, have to just go face, 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 because you're never going to clear their board.
Well,
It's just
if you do that, they
crazy.
level up and they kill you.
Well,
and, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like it is a difficult, it's a difficult matchup to kind of navigate. And even the quest priest that has a lot of healing and has a lot of board clear, sometimes it's just like, okay, well, I just played my Duskbreaker and they have 5 minions on board again. Okay, doke. Like, what do I do now?
I was playing as Odd Paladin on one of my free-to-play accounts because it's not a very expensive deck to build either. I think it runs just Baku is the only legendary that you need, right? And then
yes,
you got things like Stormwind Champion, which is literally a basic card. It is a card that is gifted to you when you play Hearthstone. So it had so many like those types of cards in it. And I remember I was playing it and I had this game where I just kept hitting the hero power and the guy kept finding ways to clear my board, but we just went so long that eventually he just ran out of ways to do it. And I was just like, for free, I'm just putting 2 guys on the board every turn. He just had to keep doing that. So I was never getting pressured. He was constantly on the back foot. And eventually it's like, and then eventually, 2 of these guys don't die and I fungal mancer them and I start punching you in the face. And it is definitely one of those that, like, I was kind of surprised that we didn't see any change to that hero power, because I know that Ixar had talked about that, like maybe make it a single 2/2 or maybe make them not Silverhand recruits or something like that. But in the end, I don't mind. Like, I think Odd Paladin is an acceptable, like, even Paladin was just the biggest. So
even Paladin was the biggest problem for sure. And I think that they're probably going to wait and see how these nerfs shake out before they potentially change any of those. Because, I mean, right now, Gen and Baku are really easy to understand. And if you start, like Baku specifically, where it's the upgraded hero power, if you start messing around with changes to hero powers and like every class has a Justicar hero power except for Paladin, Paladin is now kind of different. Like it's just kind of weird. And if they can kind of balance the game without changing that, I think that it's better. If we just learn how to play around it, that's going to be better. So I'm glad that they didn't make a change to it, that they made some other changes first. I think that, this is the better way to go about it. Yeah. And it's still so new, right? Like these Baku and Gen just came out. So I think we just need to kind of learn how to play and learn what the potential counters to these Baku Paladin decks are. But I do like that, like, odd and even decks are all over the place now. And I think that that's a really great thing, because they are, like you mentioned, the only high cost card in this deck is crafting Baku, and he's not Paladin specific, right? Like we've talked about odd Rogue, we've talked about odd Warrior. Like if you craft Baku and you get sick of playing Paladin, then you haven't wasted your dust, right? You can just go and try some other variant of another class. And
you play Baku and Rogue, right? And then you're still doing good.
Rogue or Warrior or Hunter, and all of them have different play styles too. Like Baku Warrior is control, Baku Hunter is face. So you're not even like only stuck with one play style when you craft either Gen or Baku, but Baku more specifically. So I think it's a very good use of dust, and I'm glad that it's kind of taking off.
It is cool. It's one of those things that gives free to play style players a little bit more of a chance, I think. All right, so there are tons and tons of decks for you guys to look at and think about. If you don't use hsreplay.net, I highly recommend you do, because after a big change like this, it is one of the best ways to just kind of go and see what the hell is going on. And right now we're looking at, it's just a whole new meta, right? It's just all brand new. And sometimes that's hard to sort through and hard to figure out exactly what you want to do. The other thing that they've added recently is they keep track of your collection now. So you can actually see, if you notice, all of these decks are buildable because I have all the cards. But they are all buildable for me. You will be able to see if there's a deck that you can indeed build with the collection that you have.
And if you can't build it, it tells you how much dust it's going to cost for you to build the cards that you don't have, or to craft the cards you don't have. And the other thing that they've added recently, which I thought you were going to take the words out of my mouth, but you didn't, was you can now filter, instead of just by days or by seasons, you can filter by latest patch, which means you're only going to see the cards, because that's something Dills and I ran into today. Trying to filter by last 3 days was still catching the stuff from Monday before the nerfs hit. So you can actually filter now by latest patch and only see the stuff that people are playing currently. So
they did have it where you could do that with expansion, but I don't know if I'd ever seen the patch thing
for
where
patch.
it was like,
exactly.
Yeah, which is sweet. So yeah, it's a really, really useful tool. Also, like, let's say you're a legend player and you don't really care about what all these rank 25 scrubs are doing. You can sort only by legend and see what those people are doing. So,
Yeah.
oftentimes it's not as different as you'd expect, though, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny. Well, I'll say this: HS Replay, not a sponsor, but someone who is a sponsor is HelloFresh.com. And this episode of TAC is sponsored by them. You can get $30 off your first week of deliveries by going to HelloFresh.com/TAC30 and then enter the code TAC30 when you subscribe. We've all used HelloFresh before. It's awesome. It shows up. All of the meat is like sealed underneath really cold ice that doesn't melt even if it's out on your porch for a while. And it comes and it's all really good and fresh ingredients, and you have the right amount of them to make exactly the meals that are in there. They're all super easy to make. They're all super delicious. You have 3 plans to choose from. You can do classic, you can do veggie if you don't eat the meat, and then you can do a family plan if you have like a whole bunch of people in your house. So definitely go check them out. It's super fun to actually get into the kitchen and cook. One of the hardest and the most annoying things about that, for me anyway, is going to the damn store, getting a whole bunch of stuff, and then being like, I didn't get paprika. What the hell, man?
And everything has paprika in it.
Of course it does. Yeah. But like then you get home and you're like, I can't even make the thing I wanted to make. Well, that's never going to be a problem with HelloFresh. It shows up right to your door. It's in, like I said, insulated packaging. None of your stuff is going to be wilted or gross or anything. It's all going to be perfectly ready to go. And you can see all the different things that you're going to get. It's got pictures to go along with the instructions. They're all super easy to read. You can't mess it up. Impossible. I challenge you to try.
Dills has tried and still managed to make something edible.
Look, when I cook, I'm oftentimes also playing Hearthstone on my iPad. So I am definitely one of those people who's been like, oh crap, I burned my fish fillet. That's not gonna happen with HelloFresh. They're gonna make sure you get it right. And yeah, like I said, it shows up right at your door. You can keep your subscription as long as you want. You can cancel anytime, and then they'll stop sending you stuff. But I pretty much know that once you subscribe, you're going to want to keep it because it's super, super good. But yeah, everyone go check it out. Like I said, code is TAC30, HelloFresh.com/TAC30. All right. Now I'm queuing up the proper intro. Here is the sounder for Crazy Game Stories.
Is the whole world gone crazy?
You're in trouble now.
You got it!
If you have a crazy game story, you can send those to us at tacpodcast@gmail.com. We have one from Clutch Kitten. Joss, you want to take it away?
Sure thing. Clutch Kitten says, hello, cross capons. My crazy game story starts off ever so normal. I queued up my burn mage to see that my opponent is a paladin. I've seen plenty of this, I note to myself, until I realize that no Baku or Gen graces the screen with its presence. What the hell am I up against? Then I think until my opponent drops a secret keeper, turn 1. Thus began the battle of the secrets. His little men, weapons, and question marks get the better of me. He beats my face in until I only have 1 health left. At this point, I can only hope for the best as I call my friends Vexcrow and Mana Worm. They sing a duet of spells, arcane missiles, and mirror image. At this point, I'm sitting on 3 taunts, Vexcrow, Pyros, and Mana Worm. Can he deal 1 damage to me, I ponder? Just then, he throws down a Knife Juggler. Oh no. Then he throws down his twin brother, Knife Juggler number 2. A miss. And then, my worst nightmare. My opponent played the 4-mana card. This is pre-nerfs, guys. 4-mana card called Win the Game, aka Call to Arms. One after another, knives go flying. I cringe every time the effect gets triggered. Miss. 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 Am I still alive? I say as I open one eye nervously. Not only did I not die, but all my minions survived as well. I then proceeded to smash him in the face and send my gratitude to the great Broad who watches over our RNG even when he doesn't work at Blizzard.
Wow. Now here...
Are you going to bring up why you hate Knife Juggler again?
This to me is the issue with Knife Juggler. Yeah. Is that it's like it doesn't matter where they go, someone's upset.
Yeah,
So
like you've got to know that this paladin is so pissed off.
Yeah, you were happy. The paladin goes, dude, I played 2 friggin' jugglers in a Call to Arms.
Call to Arms.
How are you not dead?
7 chances to hit.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Juggalo, you got to go. It's time. But congratulations. Yes, you the great. I don't think the great Ben Brode is looking out for you anymore. By the way, we got a couple of things in this crazy game story that are out of date. 4-mana Call to Arms and Ben Brode.
Well, he did say even when he doesn't work at Blizzard,
Is he
still
still watching
the
over?
Great Brode. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we got one more section here before we call it quits on this episode. But before we do that, we're going to thank our patrons. Again, TAC is supported almost entirely. Yes, we do have sponsors, but almost entirely the biggest thing that keeps this show going, keeps the lights on here at TAC Central is our epic patrons. So you can go to patreon.com/TAC if you really enjoy the show and you want to contribute even just a little bit. Every little bit helps, and it really keeps this whole thing going. So we thank all of our patrons. And this week we want to thank a few specific ones. Michael A., Anders C., and no first name given. All right. Yeah, if you want to be totally anonymous, you could do that too.
I thought you were going to say no first name G.
Yeah, I thought about it. All right, so let's wrap up the show with some emails.
Hello.
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
All right, we got an email here. Oh, by the way, if you want to send us emails, same one as before, tacpodcast@gmail.com. Livingston P writes in and says, "Hello, my carnivorous cackadoodling crew." Man, one day they're going to run out of these, aren't they?
Right?
I can't believe that they're still finding new ones we haven't heard.
Literally
all right.
5 years in.
Yeah. Well, here you go. This email starts. 4 years. Only took 4 flipping years, but I finally hit legend this month. Congratulations, Livingston. I would consider myself a casual player, doing my dailies, buying pre-order but nothing else, etc. I usually ended most seasons around rank 5, running out of time at the end of the month to really make a push for legend. With the new monthly reset only setting me back 4 ranks, he says 5, but it's actually only 4, I was finally able to make it. I feel the recent changes to ladder have been very positive overall. My question is, what do I do for the rest of the month? Ladder can become rather stale. Look out now, my precious poulet. As a legend player, I now will be able to critique you guys. Well, a couple things you could do. I mean, if you really just are annoyed of ladder, you could just like mess around in arena or something like that. Because now you've hit legend.
Another email that would have come in before the nerf. So I'm wondering if now the ladder won't be so stale because he can play around and not worry about losing his legend rank.
Now there's cool stuff to do. Exactly. Like trying out all these new decks. Yeah.
Well, this is legend gatekeeper. Ooh,
this is fun. What I was going to say. So I've every time I've hit legend, I'll try to be super serious about it for a little bit. And then inevitably I'm at rank 2000 and there's 2 days left and I'm like, whatever. So I just start queuing up whatever thing I think is fun. And as you get lower in the legend ranks too, you'll find a lot of other people are doing this. Other people are memeing. And then, yeah, you get that rank 1 guy and you just, like you go, hey, I don't think I can win from here. And, go ahead and hit that concede button sometime. So yeah, I would just say, just go out and have a good time. You got there, unless you're trying to earn a bunch of HCT points. Just play whatever deck you enjoy playing the most, and don't worry about what your little golden rank says because you're legend, man. So yeah, turn on that legend card back and have a blast.
Also, you've been playing for 4 years, which means you're going to have a lot of wild cards. Maybe flipping over and trying to play some of the stupid broken stuff in wild would be fun.
That's true, actually. Yeah, if you have a pretty nice wild collection now that Nagasi, which has been nerfed, it's I would assume a great place again. Although there's still Big Priest out there, so
that's true. Oh yeah, Barn. Cool.
Yeah, I played against one the other day and I was just so annoyed. I was just like, everything he did just annoyed me. But yeah, no, wild is wild is a fun place. Go check it out. Get in there, have some fun. But anyway, congrats. I mean, that's awesome. I know that there's probably a lot of people who are finally hitting legend for the first time because of these changes, and I don't want anybody out there to think that somehow getting to legend at this point is like devalued somehow. It's like you were always the person who this change was aimed at, which is like the person who doesn't have time to do that whole damn grind every freaking month. It was annoying. It was stupid. All right.
I'm glad you said that.
It's the truth. I firmly believe that. All right, Josh,
Next-
you got one for us from
Yeah.
BJ.
Yes, the next email comes to us from BJ, who says, "Clickety cluckety clucking cluckers."
Whoa.
Yeah, I just need to be careful with that one.
Yeah.
I was curious if I'm the only person who wishes you could get the Monster Hunt quest out of your queue.
Mm.
I'm a semi free-to-play player, so missing out on a possible gold from 2 quest slots this hot garbage takes up aggravates me. If I have time to play Hearthstone, I want a ladder, not play a mode that, in my opinion, is a waste of time with no significant reward. Anyway, love the show. Keep up the good work. The salt is real. I was gonna edit this, and I was like, no, you know what? He calls Monster Hunt hot garbage. I'm gonna let that through.
Sure.
So
I mean, look, that's BJ's opinion, and that
Mhm.
it's a valid one if that's how you feel about it. I have enjoyed playing my monster hunts. I still haven't completed them because basically I'm not spending a lot of time on it. Like what I've been doing is I'll do it at the beginning of a stream. I'll queue one of them up, and maybe we win, maybe we don't. But like I have completed all of the quests for it on each of my accounts, and I will say it is super annoying that I can't just recycle those because
and I understand
on my other accounts I
that,
didn't want to do it.
They give packs, right?
They give a single pack of it's Witchwood pack, single Witchwood pack for each one. So I end up getting
And
4
I wonder
Witchwood
if
packs.
that's why.
I
Is
mean-
because if you were to because they only come up once, right? So I mean, it makes sense that if I don't want to play Monster Hunt and that pack isn't worth it to me, that re-rolling that quest is probably a better use of my limited Hearthstone time.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if
to BJ it is, right? Like,
yes,
but you have the option to do it if you want. And yes, it is a pack for 10 of those wins is a
Mhm.
significant reward. It's essentially 100 gold, right?
yes, and I don't think he's not necessarily upset about the reward. It's just that he doesn't want to play Monster Hunt, and there's no way to say I can say I don't want to play Paladin or Warrior, refresh, but he can't say I don't want to play Monster Hunt, refresh. And I think that's the issue here.
Yeah.
Is that it literally means that one of his quest slots is always blocked off if he's never planning on playing Monster Hunt.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
And the thing is, it's like, you could say, okay, well, just go freaking do it and get it done or whatever, and then get your slots back. But it forces you to do it with all 4 bosses, and you
It
can't
does.
re-roll it ever, right? So I do
Yeah.
get that. That's a daunting amount of time if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of time,
Yeah.
only chooses to play Hearthstone to play on ladder, and that is the only thing you want to do. It's like, can you just give me the option to say I don't want to do this? Like I feel BJ's pain. I think that
Yeah.
like Hearthstone has learned a lot of things over time, right? And
I think they're just worried that people are gonna accidentally re-roll it, and because it
Sure.
only comes up once, then
you could have a
you're
Are You
catering
Sure?
to-
come
yeah.
up,
Oh
right?
yeah, and Are You Sure would be a good
Sure.
thing for this. Even Are You Sure this quest will never pop up again?
Yeah.
Like,
After a
letting
certain
people
amount
know
of
what they did.
time, maybe they just don't come up anymore or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
and I do get it. It's like I found it really annoying to do it on all of my accounts to open up those quests again because I am just trying to earn. But to me, I also was like, on my other accounts, a free pack of Witchwood is something that I want. So
Yeah.
it was okay. I will say, if you just want to get them out of the way really quickly, just do the first 4 bosses, concede on the 5th one, and start over again. Do the first 4 bosses again because they take so fast, or they take so little time that you can get the whole thing done really quickly. So maybe do that, BJ, and just get them out of your way and get them out of your face, and then you don't have to open Hearthstone every day and be mad.
Yeah.
But I do feel your pain, and I do agree. It's something that they should probably just give you the option to get rid of.
To re-roll. Yeah.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. I had a lot to talk about, but we got through it pretty quickly. That was nice.
Mhm.
Who would have thought?
It's
One
the-
less person, and you get through the
Yeah,
content
I was
really
gonna
fast.
say it's the fact that we only have 2 people.
Sure. So again, I do want to thank our Patreon supporters. We are supported by the Epic patrons. You can become a TAC patron by going to patreon.com/TAC. It also gives you access to, well, actually, we're not doing those anymore. Never mind. It just gives you access to being a super awesome person and helping us. And also, things go up there pretty quickly. If you also want to support us but don't want to do it through Patreon, you can go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review because that helps people find the show and continue to put us near the top or at the top of the Hearthstone podcast leaderboards over there. So please go ahead and do that if you have not done so. I want to thank the Patreon producers, Declan H., Michael N., Sean C., Johnny S., and LVE. Also, you guys can find tack coffee mugs and glasses over at etched.amove.tv. And our t-shirts are also for sale at shirts.amove.tv. The entire backlog catalog of TAC can be found on amove.tv and youtube.com/amovetv. And of course, follow the show on Twitter at Tag Podcast. Jocelyn, what's going on with you?
You can find me over on Twitch and Twitter. I'm at Joss Plays. I just totally had a brain fart there for some reason. What's going on? Not too much is going on, actually. I've been super, super busy lately. But if you guys are interested in Hearthstone, you might also be interested in a super cool Blizzard game that inspired Hearthstone called World of Warcraft. If you are, you can check out For Azeroth, which is my Warcraft show. Words hard, apparently.
You should talk for a living.
I know, right? I don't know what's wrong with me right now.
That's all right. Things happen. Yeah, definitely everyone go check out Joss's stream. It's super cool. I'm glad that you've been streaming more often because I miss being able to watch you play. Although you need to stream more Hearthstone.
I know I don't stream Hearthstone very often,
don't
but
to stream
I
the
need
Hearthstone.
to do it.
Yeah.
I need to do it a little bit more often, but I have been able to stream usually around twice a week now, which is good. But I did just get a new job, which is taking up quite a lot of time. So
yeah, that can be rough. Yeah, I do understand the streaming of Hearthstone invites a lot of people to tell you the thing that you misplayed on and the lethal that you just didn't find and all the things. Sometimes that can be a little frustrating. Whereas,
well, and it's for me too, it's I really specialized in a couple of classes for a really, really long time. So that means that I have a lot of classes that I haven't gotten golden in, and I haven't gotten, even some of them aren't even max level. And as soon as people come into the stream, they're like, what? You don't have max level rogue yet? I'm like, no, my rogue's level 30. I didn't play it till 2 months ago. Back off.
Wow.
So yeah, Hearthstone invites a lot of backseat gaming. So usually I like to just play things like Heroes and because that's the thing with the kind of faster, more action-packed games, people tend not to backseat game quite as much.
Sure. I can see that. Well, Hearthstone, there's a lot of time to sit and think and ponder through moves, right? Whereas in Heroes, you're just go.
Yeah, I do also like Hearthstone though because it gives me more time to just sit back and talk to people. Because when you're playing PUBG, can't do that.
No, yeah, and in fact, that's the main reason why I really prefer streaming the Hearthstone. When I play other games, I'm just chat is happening and I can't see it.
Yeah. Entertain yourselves, guys. Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of that, you guys can check me out on Twitter. I'm at Willie Dills. Twitch.tv/Willie Dills is where I stream the Hearthstones. And I just got back from San Francisco, so you might have noticed I haven't streamed in a friggin' week, which was so annoying. I wanted to do some IRL streams, but my internet on my phone was not the greatest out there, and it actually didn't allow me to do so. So I'm glad to be back. I'm going to stream a little bit right after this show, actually. Because there's a Warriors game later, so I won't be able to do it tonight. So I'm going to stream after the show. I'll be back again as well tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure Friday and possibly Saturday. I think I might be streaming a whole bunch, which I'm very excited about. Yeah. But I don't think I work again until Sunday. Nice. So, yeah. This is good because nerfs happened. There's lots of things to try out. There's lots of decks I want to play. And I finally actually have friggin' time to stream. So come check me out, twitch.tv/Willie Dills. And if you like wrestling, you can check out my wrestling podcast I do with Justin Robert Young, 1-900 Wrestling. You can find it on iTunes and YouTube and all the places. And you can check us out. We do it every Monday at 5 p.m. Central Time on Justin's channel, which is twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. And that's going to do it. So thanks, everybody, again, for